Good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. My name is Erica Sims. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a representative of the Board of Directors. For those of you who are new to us, welcome. We are so grateful to be able to connect with you. Our church has been gathering in Richmond since before the Civil War. We are a community of many faith journeys and beliefs, committed to deliberate diversity and full inclusivity. We are a community that is resilient and committed to healing. Whoever you are, you belong here. We invite you to join services 5 to 10 minutes early to catch the preceding announcements. We also invite you to join coffee for the coffee hour prior to service. May this be a comforting, centering, and restorative moment for you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Amos. I use she, her pronouns, and it's my honor to serve as the president of the Board of Directors. And this morning, I have the distinct honor of being part of the dedication of this beautiful new pulpit. And I have the honor to share some words with you, the story of this new pulpit, written by Regina Largent. We are thrilled to welcome the arrival of this new pulpit, a gift in memoriam from our beloved Reverend Jean Pupke. This pulpit holds special significance for our congregation as it represents the fulfillment of a long-held dream and serves as a symbol of our community's resilience and growth and strength. When First UU first relocated to this home on Blanton Avenue in 1972, financial constraints prevented the completion of certain aspects of the church. That sounds familiar. Including a new pulpit. The previous pulpit, which was designed for the old Harrison Street Church, didn't really, if you remember, didn't quite harmonize well with the modern and clean aesthetic of this sanctuary. Through the dedication and generosity of our members, the church's first capital campaign in 2013 allowed us to realize the vision of finishing the church, but Reverend Jean still held this dream of donating a new pulpit that would complement the Great Hall's contemporary wooden design. This new pulpit holds a special place in our hearts, as it was crafted from an old oak tree that once stood in Reverend Jean's backyard. Many of you who were members during the COVID pandemic may fondly remember this tree, as Reverend Jean delivered many sermons from beneath it over Zoom. Shortly after the pandemic, when the tree died, Reverend Jean ensured that its trunk was carefully dried so that it could be transformed into this meaningful piece of our church's history. As we gather around this new pulpit, let us remember the love, dedication, and resilience that it represents. May it serve as a reminder of our community's strength and of the enduring spirit of First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Reverend Amy Russell, she, her, and I'm so glad to see so many of you here today. When we planned this topic several weeks ago, we weren't quite sure how it was going to unfold, but when we had a sulfur supper a few weeks ago, we started talking to our new group, the Palestinian Awareness Group, and realized that we wanted to have lots of different participation in the service. So I want to introduce the people who are participating today. We have Joel Gottlieb, and we have Rada Hudson. and we have Larry Landon. So they're all going to be talking in this service. The service is focusing on topics of Israeli-Palestinian issues. I want to welcome New Beginnings, who are here to share their wonderful music with us. Welcome. And we also have Jamie Kilpatrick, our music director, and and Mari Ramsey, who's going to be helping us with some of our hymns. So welcome. If you are a more recent guest here today and you'd like to introduce yourself, raise your hand, and our minister of the mic, Jamie, will come around and you can stand and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from.
My name is Annie Simpson, and I'm here with my husband, Greg Rata. We are from Reston, Virginia, and I'm a lifelong UU. And we met and married at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston. And we're glad to visit you today.
Welcome.
Really? That's it?
Okay.
Yeah, there's one.
Here we go.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Glasheen. I'm recently moved to Powhatan, Virginia. I used to go to the Unitarian Church in Williamsburg. This is my first time here. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, last chance. If you would, take a minute to greet those around you. This congregation is no stranger to controversial issues. You don't shy away from them. And today is no exception. We're going to be discussing how we discuss difficult issues like Palestine-Israeli conflict. We have diverse views here, and we hope that we can model how to have respectful and meaningful dialogue in this community. But I know that this topic may be triggering or troubling for some of you, and if you have difficulties and you need to stand and leave, we have a couple people who can sit with you either during the service or after the service. Our intern minister, Kirsten Fritz, is here, and you can go ask her to accompany you. And I think we have some lay pastoral care associates as well. Could you raise your hands? Ted is here, and if you afterwards want to sit with someone who will be a good listener, they will help you. This reading is from Dana Worship. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, and truth, though that they have different thoughts and opinions about many things. I want to be with people who see in me my goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, but who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tight rope that is life, and it will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to my promises. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. For our child sliding, I'm going to call up all of my assistants here, and our child sliding is called In Times of Conflict.
You who feel your heart is breaking, come in.
You who are confused and wondering, come in.
You who are angry, in pain, or not wanting to be here, come in.
You who are hopeful and energized, come in.
Come into this community of your heart, where you have been held in love and comfort, where you have shared your joy and your spirit, where you have asked questions because you felt they needed asking, where you have found friendship and companionship, where you have sometimes not agreed and sometimes not felt comforted and sometimes not felt heard.
Bring your broken heart and your grief and share them.
Bring your confusion and your questions, share them.
Bring your anger and your pain, share them.
Bring your hope and your energy, share them.
For here in this place, we can be together. We can gather in all the conflicting emotions tumbling around in our heads and our hearts. We bring them together here, and we lay them on the altar of community. For community means that fragile, not perfect human beings can come together in the name of peace and seek to find peace again.
Peace.
Hope.
Healing.
May it be so. Will you please stand and sing our opening hymn, number 134, Our World is One World.
One
Our reading this morning is by Randolph Becker, and it is a not-so-quiet week in Lake Wobegon. Lake Wobegon, excuse me. I grieve that war creates a climate of division. Conflict is about taking sides. In a time of war, the demand for taking sides against a perceived enemy becomes exaggerated. However, in a world of diverse thought, values, and opinions, we often take sides against friends as well. Our Unitarian Universalist community should understand this, as we understand how the Vietnam conflict spread its divisiveness until we Unitarian Universalists were at war with one another over the draft, sanctuary, peace marches, and more. In our current time of war, sharper lines of dualism are once again being drawn, often to the detriment of not only our community, but of the essential diversity which we cherish. Rather than weave a rich pattern of complexity and diversity, we are asked to see things one-dimensionally. In the process, we lose the potential for wisdom and insight offered by the radical openness which is our heritage. For example, if we consider all military personnel to be our antagonists, we will miss the wise counsel of people like General Anthony Zinni, whose firsthand knowledge of war led him to advocate peace. If we consider all who oppose war to be our allies, we may abet some who advocate violence against the system. Whenever our worldview becomes one of division, not unity, we sacrifice one of our greatest assets, our ability to perceive connections more than differences.
Good morning. Hi, my name's Justin Tolley, he, him, and I've been a member here with my family since 2016, with my wife Beth, who's not up here today. She's been called down to Flame to fill in, and with my children Elliot and Zoe, who I managed to convince to come up here with me today. So they're being very brave. Thank you, guys. I'm not going to make them talk. We choose to share our time, talent, and treasure with First UU because it is an essential part of our life here in Richmond. It's also a way for us to contribute to the collective vision we share for a better world. As newcomers to Richmond in 2015, First UU quickly became an anchor for us, providing not just a place of worship, but a place of sanity during some pretty challenging times. Through it all, First UU has remained a constant, grounding us when we needed it most. From the fun nights we've enjoyed over the years with other families, meeting new friends, singing in the choir, sharing a cup of coffee on Sunday morning before the service, even learning how to wash the dishes in the kitchen. It's always been a welcoming place of peace, of rest, of friendship, of thoughtful and timely conversation, and of community. A place to see our kids grow and explore their own paths, even if that path sometimes led straight to the bowl of candy in front of the office. In giving back, we're not just contributing, we're reciprocating the support and warmth that we've received here from all of you. And we hope that as we give back in time, continue to lend our talents here and there, and contribute financially to the church's mission, that we can continue to play an active role in fostering a culture of compassion, understanding, and positive change that will extend beyond our church walls. And finally, I've been asked to share a little bit of an update for the current generosity campaign that as of today, pledges to date are $538,304. So that's of the $845,000 goal. So we're at 64% of our goal. So we've got 36% more to go there. And that's from a total of 135 donors, out of 375 potential donors. So if you haven't yet made your pledge, make sure you do that soon. Thank you all.
Good morning. I guess you're all like, what is that all about? So, I play drums here sometimes. Thank you guys so much for having me here. And this is over the years, and this is a talking drum. African drum that has been used for a very long time to communicate between tribes over long distances. And it is one of the more precise drums that was used to communicate because you could vary the tone, meaning you can get more nuances in the conversation. And I thank you for letting me come up this morning because what I wanted to do is just share with you, communicate with you a little bit about Share the Plate, which happens here at UU, which I think is a great, generous, very useful tradition here. And this month, the Share the Plate proceeds are to help an organization that I'm connected with, which is Living Waters Community Center in Richmond, Virginia. We're on social media. It is an intentional community that is about 3 years in the making. At this point, we're doing so many good things that I think you all would enjoy connecting with and participating and supporting. Just a list of some of the things that we do. So we have a very robust wellness program there. So we offer yoga classes, we offer martial arts, we offer sound baths, we offer meditation, prayer, and many of these things are on a daily basis. If you check our schedule, you'll see that you'll probably find something there. There's chair yoga. We also have drum circles. We also have what's the other? We have a lot of beekeeping. Beekeeping our site is truly an apiary. We're growing it into an urban apiary, a bee pollinator sanctuary. Last year we planted about 200 trees and shrubs on the property. This year it'll be the first summer of seeing all of that growth, seeing all of those blooms, seeing the bees just kind of go crazy over all of the things that we've put out for them. We thank you for doing that. We hope that you will continue to give and share so generously with all the organizations that you choose for Share the Plate. So I'm going to communicate on out of here, but thank you so much. I'll be here, if not today, I may be able to come back next week. We can talk more about it. But I encourage you just to swing by, check it out. It's a brilliant place. The people there are very kind. We have about 6 individuals that actually live in the community center. As a result of a 3 or 4 year long building renovation project, we'll be moving additional folks in as we complete other areas of the building, making them appropriate for residency there. So thank you so much. And again, check out Living Waters Community Center. Thanks.
We're going to take our morning offering now. The ushers will come by with baskets for those who are here. And you can donate electronically if you're joining us on the web. The information is on the screen on how to do that. Thank you for your generous offerings. Looking forward to new beginnings as well.
beautiful. Breathe that in. Oh, that wonderful energy. Let's take a moment to actually calm our energy a bit. Let's take in a deep breath. Let it out. And as we breathe, let's sit calmly and peacefully in our seats, feeling supported, paying attention to what feelings are running through you, and relaxing into a peaceful state of breathing in and breathing out. Spirit of life, be present with us here in this moment. Be present with all who are suffering due to violence, hunger, oppression. Stay with those who are grieving losses from conflict and war. As we send out our loving kindness to those who are suffering, let us become people of peace, centering peace within us, and then offering it out to the world. Amen, and blessed be. So as we started to plan this service, we realized that we wanted to be able to give you a flavor of a conversation between two people, or sharing anyway, between two people who have different kinds of opinions about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So we're going to ask some questions. They're each going to answer them in their own way. So starting with Joel, how did your background and your experience affect your feelings about this issue?
Yeah, I am Jewish. I grew up in northwestern Ohio, pretty strong Jewish community. Couple parts to it. It was David and Goliath, and Moshe Dayan and Golda Meir were kind of the heroes. Israel was always right in everything that it did, in the background that I had. And at the same time, Palestinians were terrorists, as presented by Munich, the Olympics in 1972, and the Entebbe, and Yasser Arafat having a gun and a keffiyeh at the United Nations.
And Rita?
I wasn't taught much about Palestine, Israel growing up. I grew up as a refugee in relative safety. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. My parents are both Palestinian from the same town, but my father left at 17 and then went back and got married, and my mother left later on. My parents were very young during the Nakba in 1948. My parents and their friends spoke about Israel in whispers and anger. They spoke out of traumatic experience and out of fear of being called out or arrested. Not so much arrested in Saudi Arabia, but they worked for an American company, and it was very clear that they weren't allowed to talk about what was going on or where their family was from. I went back to Palestine every summer, starting in 1972 when the borders opened back up, and the sound of Hebrew is very scary and violent to me, reminiscent of border crossings and abuse.
So with this background, how do you, what are your feelings when you approach this topic?
There's a lot of anxiety. I would say two main things. One is, like in this congregation, I feel like I'm not liberal enough to be here a lot of the time. There's been some unpleasant conversations about this topic with individuals that are quite intimidating. I'm just not liberal enough. And then the other is that I feel very strongly about it, but it's hard to know what you believe in that you're not aware of. And what I mean by that is I grew up with these strong beliefs. A good example, not in this topic, is I grew up with this notion that you had to get a job and have a house and have a wife, and those were things that were not to be questioned. And I didn't even realize how strongly I believed those things. That was what I grew up with. So it's been a challenge each time someone says something in this topic. I have to question it. I've been doing that since I'm an adult. Is this really true? And listen carefully to what everyone else is saying.
So Rita, with your background, how does it affect your feelings?
I grew up feeling like a person who didn't belong. My people were expelled from their homeland, abused and terrorized since 1948, and nobody seemed to notice. Of course, after October 7th, the awareness is much higher, but it just adds confusion for me personally because this has been going on for so long. And you begin to wonder or question the value of yourself and people where you came from. It was normalized as if Palestinians did not deserve what others had. I grew up trying to fit in. I'm Palestinian, I'm American, I'm Christian, not Muslim. It's all very confusing as to exactly where you fit in. I learned to say, in boarding school and later on in college, I learned to say I was from the Middle East and really didn't vocalize that I was Palestinian probably until the last 10 years or so.
So I'm going to go back to you with this one. When we have these conversations, we become aware that there are certain words that are triggering to different people. What are your trigger words?
Arabs are terrorists. Israel is just defending itself. And Palestine was just an empty desert pre-1948.
Joel?
Words like ceasefire, genocide, land grab, occupation, Israel isn't legitimate.
So what would you like your community, your UU community to know about this?
I want you all to understand how connected Palestinians are to their sacred land. Farming, foraging, cooking seasonally, and living in an extended family group is who we are. Obligation to family is paramount. The occupation of Palestine since 1948 has prevented every single one of these areas. Events since October 7th are an exaggerated continuation of the humanitarian crisis and inequities. The other thing I want my community to know is that, and First UU does a really good job of this with a lot of education amongst other topics as well, is that language really matters. Educating yourself on language, the words that you use to describe things, choosing your words really carefully. I think that's one thing that I would I like to see in First UU. The other thing I want, so the other thing I want my community to know is words matter, language matters, educate ourselves.
And Joel?
Yeah, there's really two main things that I guess I've learned, and I get quite upset about these things. And next week we're going to go for Passover to my family in New Jersey, and we've actually had to talk in advance and agree not to talk about a lot of this, because my cousins come from that view I described at the beginning, and their view hasn't changed, and I cannot even talk to them about these two things. The first is that the Palestinian people have had centuries of history. I have learned about this. So Golda Meir was totally wrong. She was a big hero in our house when I was growing up, but she famously said, "There's no Palestinian people." And I just am furious how wrong that was. But I would not have known that when I was growing up. And the other thing is that the expanding settlements in the West Bank just make me furious. That there seems to be no way to stop or even slow it down. And when that comes up, I just get really mad.
I want to thank both of you for sharing so honestly and openly.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I've really gotten to know Joel. He's one of the very few Jewish people I know.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed Rada as well, and it's the same. Rada is the first Palestinian person I've met here in Richmond.
Thank you both. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Certainly, there is more injustice evident in Gaza right now than most of us can bear. I think we can all agree that the senseless killing and immense humanitarian crisis must stop. And yet, we often fall into believing that there is injustice only on one side of a conflict. With the lens of our individual background, religions, social location, and experience, we often choose a side, and that becomes the one lens through which we see an issue. We sometimes fail to see that there might be another lens through which we can view a situation. With the current conflict in the Middle East, many of us found ourselves feeling a lot. We feel anger, resentment, we feel fear. We try to share our views on this issue with others, and often what comes out of our mouth is anger, resentment, and fear. So when these feelings spill out, sometimes the words that we use can trigger others into their anger and resentment and fear. And these emotions don't lend themselves to building community. So what do we do with all these big feelings that we're having? So many have suggested that we educate ourselves better, and many of us are trying to do that. We have been told that we need to know the facts, but sometimes I ask, which facts? Is it possible to share the facts without a lens guiding which facts we share and the language we use to share them? Statements of history of the Middle East are often difficult to word in a way that everyone can agree to them. The Palestinian Awareness Group of First UU has invited a speaker on April 28th after the service at 12:30, in which we will learn more Palestinian history. So I hope we can come and listen with the intent to learn and not with the intent to disagree. But after that speaker, we are going to invite people to share their views respectfully. We will have a facilitator here to help us share our views. But what about the extremely troubling events that are going on right now? Are there some statements of injustice that are happening that most of us could agree upon with our principles of justice and equity? Is it even possible? So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to ask you to become aware, when I read some statements, of any thoughts, emotions, or feelings that come up for you while I read these statements. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas fighters killed around 1,200 Israelis in violent assaults on multiple towns in southern Israel, taking many Israelis hostage, some of whom have not yet been released. In response, Netanyahu's government has launched a bombing campaign and surface attack in Gaza, killing some tens of thousands of Palestinians. During this time, little food, water, and medicine has reached Gaza, creating a huge humanitarian crisis. Now, as I read these statements, I would imagine that some of you began to have some feelings about this. You may have been looking for me to use certain words, and I didn't use them, maybe. You may have been looking for me to say things that I left out. You may have wanted to add some things. You may even feel the need to just get up and walk out, and that's okay. It's very hard to find the right words to describe events and get everyone to agree that those are the facts. So there's some trigger words that I'm glad that Joel and Rita shared, and these words are very important that we learn how to use them, how not to use them when we're in these conversations. The word genocide in particular is one of those trigger words. The word oppression, terrorism, the phrase from the river to the sea, the word ceasefire or free Palestine or support Israel. It seems today, in today's world, these phrases and words have such baggage to them. So we have to be careful how we use them. The words bring up trauma for people, and for both of these peoples, there is intergenerational trauma at play. This is true for many people around us in our family and our friends. We have people who are on all sides of this issue. People with history of Muslim countries, Palestinian backgrounds, people who have a Jewish background or who have a history in one of these countries. Some who have no direct relation but feel very strongly. So what do we do about all of this? How do we remain a congregation dedicated to justice for all people with a definite bent towards understanding and compassion as well? How do we hear each other when we don't agree? So can we become aware of the emotions we carry and how they affect the way that we communicate? Can we be mindful about when we share these emotions, how we feel as we share them, and how the other person listening is feeling? As Unitarian Universalists with a goal of world community with peace and justice, can we learn to start building that world right here? So I want to tell you a story about an organization that has done this very well in the past years and today. The group I want to talk about is a group called the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, Women of Peace. Imagine 12 Muslim and Jewish women sitting around a table, a dining room table in someone's home in 2010. Imagine the very different perspectives they might have brought to that table. Imagine them sharing with each other their feelings about these issues. But they understood when they first came together that they could not talk about Israel-Palestine at first. They didn't know each other. They had no common bond. So they decided how they would start is building relationships with one another and educating themselves. So they began to go out into the world, learning about injustice all over the world. They began visiting different places of injustice. They went to the concentration camps in Germany. They went to Azerbaijan. They went to the South to learn about Civil War era events. And most recently, they went to the US-Mexico border to learn about immigration. They thoroughly steeped themselves in knowing about injustice across the world, and as they did, they shared with one another what they thought about this. And when October 7th happened, they looked at each other and they said, now we have to speak about Israeli-Palestinian issue. It's time. And because they had been building these relationships, they knew each other, they respected each other, they could have this conversation and they could find out where they agreed and where they disagreed. And they started talking, and they didn't agree about many things, and they cried, and they prayed together, and they kept working at what did they agree upon. So they came out with a statement, and I'm going to read it to you and show it to you here. And I think it's an amazing statement for people who can talk about a very divisive issue. As the unconscionable devastation and death toll mounts in Gaza, and deep desperation grips Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel, the Sisterhood of Salom Shalom, Women for Peace, calls for the immediate and permanent cessation of all violence. And we call for immediate access to food, clean water, medicine, medical care, shelter, and safety for Palestinians and Israeli hostages in Gaza. No less important, we call for the immediate release of all those who have been taken hostage or prisoner for political reasons. The only way forward is through robust negotiations leading to the end of the occupation and a political diplomatic solution to the conflict itself. At the core of that effort is the fundamental commitment to respecting the humanity in every human being and restoring human rights for all peoples in the region. Until such time, the ramifications of disregarding these principles are fueling fear around the world in the face of growing hatred against Jewish, Muslim, Palestinian, Israeli, and Arab individuals and communities. As a sisterhood, we stand up against hate. As a sisterhood, we call for an immediate and permanent cessation of violence. As a sisterhood, we demand peace. So the work that went into those words, that's what inspires me. You may not agree with all the words, but the work they did for people who are coming from this lens we're talking about, very different lenses, coming together in respectful dialogue could come up with this statement. This is hard for many of us. Many of our families have been torn apart. My family has been torn apart by this issue. I have a family member his mother is Israeli, whose many family members died in the Holocaust, and many cousins of whom are fighting in the Israeli Defense Force. I have another family member who's Muslim. She's a world hunger expert, and she was recently interviewed by Al Jazeera about the humanitarian conflict in Gaza today, and she's actively working towards a humanitarian solution. Both of these family members I'm very close to, they both came to me and asked me to work on what they believe needed to be done. I could not work with both of them, of course. So what did I do? I told them that family was very important to them, that I loved them deeply, and I respected their views, but that I also had a conscience, and I had to speak from my conscience. And I shared with both of them that I saw an unbelievable humanitarian crisis of the highest order right now, and that I believed that our government must take action to stop the violence in Gaza and to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches them. So my conscience has led me to write my congresspersons and my president to say, I believe we must stop sending aid to Israel. That is what I told both of my family members. The unbelievable thing was, they both agreed with me. Now, they would have used different words, and they are still not speaking to one another, but they have some commonalities that they just can't see. So we have to speak out what we believe. We also have to listen with deep respect. As a spiritual community, I believe we should do that in a way that honors each other's points of view. If we can model that civil dialogue, but also stand up for what we believe about justice, then we have gone a long way towards beloved community. So what can we do about working on this? Can we move forward in a way that honors and respects all of the views? How can we be a model for civil dialogue? So I want you to know that on April 28th, after the speaker that is hosted by the Palestinian Awareness Group, we are going to have a civil dialogue, I hope. That is my prayer. Now, you might ask, why is it important for as Unitarian Universalists? Why is this so important for us to model this civil dialogue? Well, look at our history. Many of you remember a man whose name was Francis David. He was a priest who became prominent in this little tiny kingdom called Transylvania in the 1560s. This little kingdom was founded in a corner of Europe, and it had a very diverse population. There were people in Transylvania who were working-class Romanians, noble Hungarians, another warrior class called, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Zekeli, and the Saxons, who were the merchants. All of these people were very diverse ethnically and religiously. Many had been Catholics, and some had converted to Lutheranism, and some finally became Calvinists. And at this time, one of our forebears, Francis David, a priest, was beginning to talk about this anti-Trinitarian view, this view of one God. So this King John is very young, he was 19 years old. King John Sigismund ended up on the throne after his father had died. And he had been raised by Queen Isabella, who was a very open woman to different views on religion. So the king planned 3 debates between the Lutherans, the Catholics, and the Calvinists, and this new anti-Trinitarian view. And the first 2 debates yielded no winner. But the king realized that what was important to him was the debate itself, and that all the views were being shared. So he asked his Diet at the time to pass a law about religious freedom. And this is what it read. No one may be blamed because of their religion. No one is allowed to threaten others with prison, because faith is God's gift. So that is how Unitarianism was born. It was born in the midst of great debate where people did not agree, and they came together under a king who said, we're going to listen to each other. And you can have whatever view you want in this country, as long as it's Christian. You can have whatever view you want. But in the midst of all of that foment, Unitarianism was born. So this idea of religious freedom and thought for each individual's worth and dignity has continued down our line of history. Unitarians and Universalists have long declared that humans have the right to seek truth using a rational mind. So why is this important today? Because we also want everyone to have the freedom to express their views on this very important issue. We can model the kind of community that allows disagreement, even conflict, but stays together. This idea of religious respect, this idea of respecting others is at the heart of, I think, all religions. When you think of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The Talmud asks, who is a hero? And answers, one who makes an enemy into a friend. The Quran states, it may well be that Allah will implant love between you and those with whom you have had enmity. And Francis David, our wonderful forebear, says, we need not think alike to love alike. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Please stand as we say extinguish our chalice and do our benediction.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
These words come from Rabbi Erwin Keller. Let us be a house of peace. Today I am taking sides. I am taking the side of peace. Peace which I will not abandon even when its voice is drowned out by hatred and hurt, bitterness of loss, cries of right and wrong. I am taking the side of peace, whose name has barely been spoken in this war. I will hold peace in my arms. I will share my body's breath, lest peace be added to the body count. I will call for de-escalation, even when I want nothing more than to get even. I will do it in the service of peace. I will make a clearing in the overgrown thicket of cause and effect so peace can breathe for a minute and reach for the sky. I will do what I must do to save peace. I will breathe through fear. I will swallow pride. I will bite my tongue. I will offer love without testing for deservingness. So don't ask me to wave a flag today, unless it is the flag of peace. Don't ask me to sing an anthem, unless it is the side of peace. Please join us in our closing hymn. Oh, I Need You to Survive.
I need you